What's up, everybody? Welcome to Monday Night Football, the pre-lock show. Oh, we got a special one today. We got a special one. We got a little two-gamer slate here. Oh, we don't get very many of these throughout the year, but they're blessing us with. We usually would get them in week one. We get a nice one, but week two we have one. And I was just glancing at the schedule. We got one next week too. Weird, and then they go back to regular Monday Night Football, but. Joined, as always, on Monday night so far. Squirrel Patrol is going to walk this stuff through us, with us, and we're gonna figure it out. But a little two gamer, Squirrel. You can't beat that, right? That's nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how many people would describe it as a blessing to have the Saints and Panthers and Cleveland and Pittsburgh, but yeah, two nice games. Not a 40-point total to be seen, but it's all right. Makes the prize pools are as big as you would expect for week two of Monday night. So still money to be won.
Well, I'm just, the whole. It's just when you see two games now, all of a sudden I can build a full roster, and I don't have to worry about the captain and the MVP and all this. Like I prefer the full roster, so at least it gets us to that point, and that's good. And you know, we'll see. We'll sit there and debate it all day. When it comes to Thanksgiving, that's three games, and you feel like, oh, that's so good, and it's only three games, so two games is not great, but it's a lot better than just one little measly game. So I kind of like it, but we're gonna walk you through some players here, some things we might like tonight. But gotta point out this is a show for you guys. This is almost like it's called pre-lock, but it's almost like what's that show right before MLB starts? The one that Crunch Time. This is like Crunch Time. Like my apologies there, guys. Roth and the boys. Couldn't get it off, couldn't get it out. But this is like Crunch Time. You ask the questions and we're gonna answer them. I would prefer to sit here for the next 30 minutes because that's how long we got to this thing locks. I would prefer to sit here and answer questions. I've already given all my stuff in writing and through expert surveys and CVRs and everything for this. So I would prefer not to rehash that, but we will to kill time. But if you got questions, fire away. Doesn't have to even be football related. Give me a basketball question. I'm ready for basketball too, man. I'm ready for anything you got. College football, movies, TV shows. Squirrel's got all this covered, man. But we got it. We got two games here. Squirrel, they're not the best games in the world, but like you said, but it's something. Something's better than nothing. Let's start off New Orleans, Carolina, a little 3-point spread there. Like you said, 40-point total. How you feel about that game? Any spread or total there jump out to you? Any side of that?
Not really. Honestly, I think both of these games seem pretty appropriately, in terms of the line and the total. It's kind of what you would expect with these games, but I think it's noteworthy, and this is going to be kind of a theme for the main slate discussion that it's Bryce Young's home debut. He's a home underdog, 3-point underdog. I don't love picking NFL quarterbacks in their rookie season. First couple of games can be pretty rough. But his home debut, and it's kind of slim pickings on a 2-game slate. So so that's the thing that jumps out at me at the New Orleans Carolina game.
And then there's Cleveland, Pittsburgh. It's almost identical. The road team is about a 3-point favorite, 2.5, 3, depending on where you're seeing it now. Not even up to 4, about the same thing. I mean, you have the same thoughts there?
Yeah, basically. But the one piece of intrigue, and we'll touch on it, is Amari Cooper's been doubtful. Now he's questionable. So was it the same day upgrade? It's good to see. I'm a little bit on the skeptical side because I think it's a hamstring injury, and those are prone to recurrence, but also like that time is all you need to heal those. So I can't imagine why they would rush him out there. And like that, I started looking at the receiving props earlier today, and they've actually kind of gone up for it's gone up for Donovan Peoples-Jones and a little bit down for Elijah Moore. But kind of an indication, I think it's priced as though Cooper's not going to play. So if you get word Amari Cooper's in, maybe the first thing you want to do is open up that sportsbook app, start betting unders on the Cleveland receiving, wide receivers, which is not necessarily a bad bet.
Well, I'll tell you what, the latest thing we got there was from Rap about 10 minutes ago, said Amari Cooper will play in week 2.
Will play. All right.
Rappaport. Rappaport. Ian Rappaport, I believe it is. Yeah, so, he's going to be in there. So we got that working for us. Still waiting on the inactives for the second game. We got them for the first game. We got Hammer in chat says Big T is king of Showdown. Well, let me tell you, Big T's not here. He is the king of Showdown. He's really good at it. You know what Big T? You know what else Big T's good at? Big T always preaches the Wong teaser, the Wong teasers. Boy, this is set up. I got a inside connection. The Wong teaser guy. He says these home underdogs, you got to tease them. You got to Wong tease them here, man. Home underdogs, like in the NFL, you got to do it. You got to power through a little teaser action. Teasers are nice. They're fun, man. I like that. Big T's also the king of the workbench, in case anybody didn't know that. And Amari Cooper, I don't think it's his hamstring. I think it's his groin. That might affect the work. That might affect the workbench right there. A lot more than playing football, but that's a rough one, man. That's a rough injury to deal with. So. We got Jared Barden is in chat. He says rumors are swirling about a Kirkwood anytime touchdown. Any thoughts on that? Let me tell you something about Kirkwood. He's named after the great Chris Kirkwood, Kirk Deese, who is part of the RG family here. And so I can get behind. Does Keith Kirkwood still play for New Orleans, or is he? I don't even know who he plays.
So,
yeah. Well, I mean, why not? Why not? Who knows?
One target week one.
That's all it takes, buddy. That's all it takes. One time. But I mean, it is what it is. Anybody could score a touchdown on Monday Night Football, so why not? What else we got going on here? Well, I'll take any questions you got, Hammer. Anything you want to throw out there? Let's get it. All right. Let's talk about these games and why not? Let's get into it. 2 games. Quarterbacks until we start getting a little questions. Let's just walk through some quarterbacks. Who's your favorite quarterback on this little 2-gamer?
I like Bryce Young, which is weird. I mean, he's the lowest projected, but I think that's going to lead to really small ownership, and it's not really justified. Like the competition here is Deshaun Watson. It's probably my second favorite. Derek Carr and Kenny Pickett. The difference between all of these quarterbacks is not that big, but it's being accentuated in the ownership. I think we're seeing 5% or so projected ownership, 5-10% for Bryce Young. God, I wouldn't I'm gonna have him at multiples of that. I mean, I think there's an argument to maybe split the ownership just among the 4 quarterbacks at about 25% each if you're doing multi-entry. Who knows which of these guys is going to be the highest scorer. So if you're getting if you're able to to get over the field on Bryce Young, I mean, I guess we're showing him at 19% on DraftKings. I think it might be a little bit lower than that. I think there's an argument to be at about 25% on all of these quarterbacks if you're doing multi-entry.
Really, that's an interesting thought. Go ahead and disperse your quarterback stuff. But so when I do a main slate and we got 12 games or 14 games. I have my rules in place, and one of them might be I want to stack in a certain way. I want to stack my quarterback with, certain pass catchers or whatever, but I don't want my quarterback. I got a rule, no quarterbacks and running backs, let's say, in the same lineup. I just don't want it. I just feel like at some point you're going to eat from each other. But I mean, I get it. But that's a rule for me. But when we come to a 2-gamer, I just throw all the rules out. I don't want any rule. I don't want anything to make it harder to build. It's already hard enough to get this thing to, give you 100 lineups if that's what you want. So you kind of got to disperse all those rules and break them up and get them out of there. Do you have anything on a 2-gamer that you'll still hold fast on that's the same as a big slate, or are you just erasing all the rules and you don't care?
It's pretty much anything goes. I think if you ran this slate thousands of times, right? If you did your simulations, I'm feeling like the game stacks would probably win out more often than not. You want to at least pair your quarterback with a handful of guys from the same game. But I actually think, if I recall, as a Thanksgiving slate last year, maybe the year before that, where it was just Josh Allen was the only guy from the game, and that was the quarterback you had to have. It was one of the other games that went off. So any rule can be broken on this 2-game slate. I'm going to probably game stack more than I would on a main slate.
Interesting. And then, for a main slate, it's always that little thing that says zero players against your defense.
Oh yeah.
What's your limit here on a two gamer? What's your limit for against your defense?
I think you can even go up to three players. You don't necessarily want to be stacking every single person, against your defense. Like that seems like it's unlikely. But there's just a lot of situations where, you can see if some team runs back 2 touchdowns, in terms of kick returns or something like that. Like that's going to break the slate and not necessarily have a huge impact on the opposing offense.
Yeah, and I talk about rules and running back, quarterback specific for me because tonight we're talking about Deshaun Watson right now. Well, you talked about Bryce Young. Deshaun is like he's going to be a popular quarterback, obviously, second highest projected guy on the slate, maybe the most known guy on the slate. And he also has the best running back with him in this two-game field. So that's definitely a rule breaker right there. I got to break rules because I got to have Chubb on a lot of lineups. And so it's going to be mixed with some Deshaun Watson. So that's a big deal right there. Lip wants to know, speaking of running backs, Lip wants to know your thoughts on Chuba Hubbard tonight.
I like him. This is it's like a blend between a main slate and a showdown slate, right? Like you always have these backup running backs and the second string tight ends on showdown, but I think it's highly relevant here. I think Miles Sanders is going to be popular, and he should be popular, and he should be your cash game running back, probably paired with Nick Chubb. But Chuba can get in there. So yeah, I'd prefer to be overweight the backup running backs than underweight them, and I don't mind even pairing Chuba and Miles Sanders. It's very conceivable they each get a touchdown, and it's the only running back touchdowns on the slate. Nick Chubb I think is going to be by far the highest projected running back. But yeah, I mean I think you can play Nick Chubb and Jerome Ford. I mean it's possible that game is 2 running back touchdowns, both from Cleveland, and that might be the scoring. I mean it's a 38 something total. So yeah, rules definitely can be broken on this slate, and I like being over the field on the backup running backs.
Yeah, another big rule there on the main slate. Nah, I'm never going to play 2 running backs from the same team, But tonight, like you just mentioned, definitely there's a path there. You just never know what's going to happen. Even the guys, Ford and Chubb are really similar kind of guys, but I get it. Yeah, no doubt. This could be, they go crazy on the ground, and that could be your guys. All right, we talked about Deshaun.
Sorry, just to throw in, you've seen all the time, on Showdown, Cleveland Showdowns, used to be a thing. Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb, that was the time you would break that rule in Showdown. So if Jerome Ford's kind of stepping into that Kareem Hunt role, Cleveland's just running the ball, then yeah, it's a rule to be broken.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some running backs in a minute too, because I got some thoughts on Ford. But let's finish up. We'll wrap up the quarterbacks here. We got about 20 minutes left, and then it's going to be lock time. Derek Carr is going to be, we're projecting right now about 43% on DraftKings, heavily owned, the most heavily owned quarterback on the slate. I mean, there were times he didn't look great last week in his New Orleans debut. He's obviously he's more talented than some of the other guys they've had in recent years, and he's got great weapons. But 43% sounds like you're going to be underweight on that.
Yeah, definitely. Is it 43%? Yeah, I'd be under the field. I think I'm going to end up being under the field on Derek Carr. I like Watson better than Carr, and I kind of just in terms of raw projection, I definitely like Watson better than Carr. But I like the idea of just playing this as if Carolina is going to win the game, because it's only a 3-point spread. I think Carolina can win it, so I like having more Bryce Young than Derek Carr.
Yeah, that's the numbers, man. You're churning the numbers. That's what you do, and that sounds good. And then the last one we haven't hit on is Kenny Pickett. Man, I don't have a whole lot of expectations for him, but we're on a little 2-gamer with only 4 quarterbacks, and nobody will play him because everybody looked at the Cleveland defense last week, and it looked good. But maybe that's not. Maybe that's kind of after what we've seen here this week, maybe that was a little bit overblown. So how you feel about Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, he's my least favorite of the quarterbacks. And if I go super overweight Bryce Young and it ends up being Kenny Pickett that you needed to have, it'll be upsetting, but it's possible. He's second year quarterback, so you presume he's getting better. It's just tough. Like Deontay Johnson's out. It's a little tough to get there, but I think like 18% or so, if that's the projected ownership, seems about right. I'd probably lean towards having him the least out of all of my quarterbacks in the multi-entry build.
Let's go to some running backs now with our 17 minutes left here. Remember, guys, fire off the questions. We're here to answer them, have a little fun. All right, let me see. Let's talk about, we talked a little bit about Miles Sanders. So Miles Sanders is getting projected on DraftKings in the two-gamer for over 80%, while Nick Chubb is going to come in at about 20 lower projected because of the salary gap there. I like me some Nick Chubb tonight. Who's your favorite running back?
Yeah, I think it's got to be Nick Chubb. I feel a little bit differently on the showdown, but just in terms of like the way that I'm like a main slate build, it kind of comes out. Like I think you've got to be having like Nick Chubb as the highest projected running back, and like sometimes those raw points just matter. So I think my order is probably like Nick Chubb, then Miles Sanders, then Jamal Williams, and then Najee Harris.
Let's talk about Jamal for a minute. Last week in his debut for New Orleans, he was semi-chalky because of the inactives and the injuries they got going on right now. Did not like him. He was in a tough matchup, and I think he's kind of a one-trick pony right now at this stage of his career. But we're getting Jamal Williams tonight for a pretty cheap salary, not that much ownership, all things considered, two-game slate. And the matchup has got to be better than it was last week. So how do you feel about Jamal Williams?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's in there. I like Miles Sanders better, and Sanders is cheaper. So yeah, I was doing the show with like James to win for week 1 of the NFL main slate, and he really liked Miles Sanders. Like people don't realize what a good season he had last year, just to kind of get lost in all of the Philadelphia offense. And he had a really good year. I think it's like 1,200 yards rushing, and he's a guy that can catch the ball as well. So I like I like a lot of Carolina tonight. Just thinking that people aren't going to go there as much as they should. So like Miles Sanders, like Chuba Hubbard, he's going to be like 10% owned. Like it's not that hard if you're, for single entry, like you can play Chuba Hubbard. And if you're doing like multi-entry, like nothing wrong with being like 15, 20% when other people are going to be at like 9%.
Yeah, sounds good. Then we got the Pittsburgh backfield, Najee, Jalen. I mean, everybody out there seems to really love them some Jalen Warren these days and how he should take over the backfield and all this other good stuff. What's your thoughts on that backfield tonight?
I like Najee Harris better, and it's almost a contrarian play at this point because we're seeing ownership there where Najee is going to be like double the ownership of Jalen Warren, but everybody loves Jalen Warren. But like sometimes teams just don't see it that way, and I feel like it's one of those situations we've been waiting for forever. And like there was like a Leonard Fournette thing, right, where like every year, every week, people are like, well, the backup running back is going to take over for Leonard Fournette, and it just never happened. Fournette's entire career in Tampa Bay. Like we were like saying, oh, maybe it's LaShawn McCoy week or something. Like I don't even think he, got in there, right? Like I think this might be Najee Harris's backfield, and I think the ownership is not going to be like what's reflected there. Right? Because I think people are going to go to Jalen Warren because everybody loves like finding that unknown guy, and I think it might just still be Najee Harris in the backfield.
Yeah, I don't think he's really done anything to not, to get booted from the job. He's still really young, and they've given him nothing to work with his whole career. So I'm still a Najee Harris believer, believe it or not. So yes, Hammer, we need more likes. We need more questions. Let's get rolling here. We do have some inactives for the later game here. We got 13 minutes left before we're out of here, and the lineup's locked. Cleveland. Well, let's start with Pittsburgh. Mason Rudolph, Des Fitzpatrick, Cook, and King. Nothing. There's nothing there that's really moving the needle. For Cleveland, it was the news we were waiting on. Amari Cooper is not on the inactive list, so that means he's going to be active. Now, is he going to play full amount of snaps? Is he going to be like a full 100% strength Amari Cooper? I don't know. We're not the team doctors here, but the growing injury is good enough for him to feel like he can play something tonight, or else they wouldn't have him on this list. You don't take up a roster spot on game day for a guy who's not going to go out there and see the field. You can at least have somebody else there to take that place if you know Amari Cooper's not going to see the field. So he's going to do something. What he does, we don't know. So now you know for sure he's going to be active. Where's your thoughts go to Amari Cooper and how you're going to play him tonight with a growing injury?
Yeah, I don't love the play, and I want to say like, oh, a late active. It's the later game. Like you want to play him. There's a game theory active. The game theory component. I don't know. Like I'd rather play like Chris Olave. Probably rather play Michael Thomas. And maybe people are going to overthink this. And there's a possibility they use him as a decoy. I don't know. Yeah, I tend to agree that he's probably going to be active and playing snaps, if he's on the active list. Groin injury, hamstring injury. He's not on the workbench. I don't know. Like I'll probably still aim to be under the field on Amari Cooper, but it maybe like lessens my interest in Elijah Moore a little bit.
Yeah, this is one of those situations. I don't think you can get an accurate beat on ownership projection because we just don't know how people are thinking about it. So that's interesting. Let's shift to we covered all the running backs we could. Let's shift to tight ends real quick because let's discuss them while we got a question. Eric Johnson at the lip says thoughts on double tight end and Hayden Hurst, I believe, is who he's talking about. Double tight ends on a little 2-gamer. I mean, I'm cool. That's one of the rules. Listen, I don't even play a tight end in my flex on the main slate. I don't want it. I don't think there's enough upside for enough guys, so I don't do it. But I'll go double tight end on a little one like a little Thanksgiving slate or this one. So what's your thoughts on double tight end?
Absolutely. And this is like a pretty intriguing tight end matchup as far as games go. Because Freiermuth is pretty active in the Pittsburgh receiving core. Like Njoku gets a lot of looks from Deshaun Watson. So if Amari Cooper is maybe a little bit dinged up, Hayden Hurst, just got signed by Carolina. And then the New Orleans tight ends need almost no introduction, right? Like you've got Taysom Hill, Juwan Johnson, and if you're feeling super frisky, there's Jimmy Graham still there.
Ooh.
I at least check that inactive list to make sure he's active.
No, he's
that would
active.
be like a 1 in 150.
I believe he's active, but yeah, I mean, who knows? The Prince says Hubbard or Hurst for a better game, and I would say it's Hayden Hurst for me. I don't expect the week one every week, but I don't think it's a fluke. I think a veteran tight end is a young quarterback's best friend. I heard a lot of this coming out of camp with this connection. So I think he's going to have some good weeks. He's solid, and Hubbard still has to fight for that backfield snaps with other people. So I'm going to go Hurst, but Hubbard or Hurst for you, just a better value tonight.
I like the idea of being over the field on both of them, and I'll actually go Chuba Hubbard.
Fair enough. You just never know. DJ Shark or Marshall in the big contest, the Millie Maker? Oh, man, that's a good question. What's your thoughts on that one?
I'd still go DJ Shark. It's tempting to go way off the board, but I don't think Shark's going to see so much ownership. You need to go to the guy that I think is the fourth wide receiver in Carolina.
We got Derek says Carr is barking coming out of the tunnel. He's pumped. I like that. In a quarterback, you just swayed me. I'll throw an extra 5% on him in my optos, man. So we got that going for us. Rasheen Shaheed or Michael Thomas for a better game. I will say this much. I think Shaheed's going to have some really spike weeks this year. He had a good week in week one. I think Michael Thomas is going to slowly get back to being really good. I like Michael Thomas here. What do you think, Shaheed or Michael Thomas?
So, cash games I think you're definitely going Michael Thomas. Shaheed is an explosive player. I mean, he's a guy that can take the ball to the house, and that worries me on a slate like this. Where like one touchdown is going to make the difference. I mean, if he gets like a 60-yard touchdown, like that's the slate, you probably need to have him on the lineup. So like I think Michael Thomas by median projections, right, is certainly going to be the higher projected there. I love me some Shaheed for tournament lineups.
Sounds good. We got how much Pickett? How much Pickett are you playing FanDuel tonight, Squirrel?
Yeah, playing both sides.
How much Pickett? You still going 25%?
No, like I think he's the guy where maybe I would go a little bit under 20 and then like bump up the other three quarterbacks.
All right, we talked about some tight ends here. We got Hurst, Juwan Freiermuth. There's some good ones here. Just in a vacuum, which ones you're going to be your highest on?
Probably in Njoku, but like followed by Hurst. Actually, it depends on the site too, but I think the three main guys are going to be like Freiermuth, Njoku, and Hurst.
This is a guy in chat, best NFL live TV provider, but he just keeps spamming us, man. He just keeps spamming us. All right, he's got to go. All right, I'm gonna go a little bit against you there. I'm gonna say I'll probably be most underweight on Njoku, and the most overweight. I still think it's Freiermuth. Freiermuth is. I'm not saying a lock him in, but he's might be one of these guys. I look at my lineup HQ, and I might put the number 80 next to my exposure. Like I might want 80% of him. Something. I think he's in for a big game, but Njoku, I don't know, man. I need to wait and see on that one. I don't think Watson hasn't been a big tight end guy his whole career, but we'll see. We'll see. He's obviously has upside. We got about 6 minutes left here. Let's shoot through some wide receivers. We've talked a little bit about Amari Cooper. What we haven't talked about is probably the best wide receiver as far as talent and opportunity on the whole slate, Chris Olave. What's your thoughts on Olave and his big 75% ownership mark?
Yeah, I think that's good. I mean, he's a guy that's going to get receptions. Like look at last week, like eight receptions, 112 yards, like 10 targets. He doesn't even need a touchdown to get there. So like a lot of my thought process here is like try to get the guy that could get the random touchdown. But with Olave, like you just stick him, like salary is not an issue. You can just stick him in your lineup. Like, yeah, 75% owned seems about right. So yeah, I like Chris Olave. Like he can pile up the receptions, and that might be one reason why I like the idea of Shaheed a little bit more than Michael Thomas, because like Michael Thomas used to be that guy that you just picked up like piles of receptions, and I'm not sure he's that guy anymore. And like the offense is different and stuff like that. Quarterback's different. But I think like Chris Olave is maybe getting more towards what we used to think of with Michael Thomas.
Couple of questions here while we got about 5 minutes left. Your thoughts on Taysom Hill? We didn't really go over him specifically. What's your thoughts on Taysom?
He's not one of my highest owned tight ends, but he is definitely in there. I've got like double, like 15% ownership. And great single entry play. Like he had 9 touchdowns. I think 9 touchdowns and 1 passing touchdown last season. Like that's more than half a touchdown per game.
So, thoughts on Allen Robinson on FanDuel? Man, I kind of swore him off last year when I saw him moving in quicksand for Los Angeles, and I just don't. But I've heard some promising things coming out of Steelers camp about him. I don't know. What do you think about Allen Robinson?
I'll go there. I think about 20% ownership is right. People are going to want to go to Calvin Austin, and I get that because Calvin Austin, same kind of thing. You've heard some good reports, but maybe like people are too scared kind of to go with Allen Robinson, and like so maybe he's the answer. Kind of similar to like the Jalen Warren, Najee Harris thing. Like people are going to see Allen Robinson. I want to skip over that. He was such a disappointment last year. They're going to want to go to Calvin Austin. Like I don't even know who this guy is, but he's got to be better than Allen Robinson. And maybe like if Allen Robinson gets the touchdown, that's it. Like that's all you need.
And they're missing Deontay tonight, and Deontay does not do a whole lot except for run about 5 yards down the field and catches passes. And that's, he's not a big down the field guy that much. So maybe Allen can just slip right on in there and, waddle his way 5 yards down the field and catch passes all night. We don't know. I Love Weed. I don't make these names up. This is the guy's name. I Love Weed says, how about them Cowboys? Let me tell you something, man. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. This is a big year for the Cowboys. We're coming in, of course, Hammer's hating, saying we're going to go out in the first round, but I'm not so quick, man. Not so quick. Let's just stay healthy, and I think good things are going to happen. What else? I'm looking for other. Can you play Young? Oh, this is a good one. The old naked or stat question. Can you play Bryce Young naked on FanDuel in a high stakes single entry contest?
I think you can, but he's not like a super rushing quarterback. So I'd almost prefer to pair him with one of his receivers, or at least like the tight end, right? Like if Bryce Young is going to get there to the point where he's winning you a GPP, he probably needs, especially on like a 2-game slate, he probably needs at least one passing touchdown.
We got about 2 minutes left. We've talked some wide receivers. Give me your best. Who's your favorite wide receiver out of this bunch tonight? When you consider ownership, price tag, just this is the guy I'm going to have the most in my lineups compared to the field.
It's tough to get away from Chris Olave. Again, he's going to be high owned, but like when you say like the best wide receiver, it's tough to. And you're looking at this like 2-game slate. It's tough to say anybody other than Chris Olave. I maybe like getting different elsewhere in my lineups. I guess if I'm going for a 1 in 150, I think Cedric Tillman with Cleveland is interesting because he's a 3rd-round rookie. So but a lot of people haven't heard of him. He's not like this super highly touted prospect. Like if Amari Cooper is a little bit dinged up, I think maybe Tillman's getting some extra work. Like you'd expect a rookie to be getting a little bit more work as the season goes on anyway. And then like for just big play explosiveness, I'd say Rashid Shaheed.
I would say that I'm keeping my eye on and a little bit overweight here on George Pickens. Every time you turn on or every time you look at Twitter, what was formerly Twitter, you see the highlight reel catches from George Pickens. He's a beast. Now he gets a shot with Deontay out. Let's see what he does. Along the same lines that you were talking about, some of the other guys, Donovan Peoples-Jones, who knows what Amari's snap count is going to be. This was arguably Watson's favorite target at times last year when he finally came back. So I'm curious on that one. So it's going to be a fun night, Squirrel. We got about a minute left, so we're going to jump out of here. You got any final words here before we take off?
No, just like break the rules tonight. We live in such a rigid main slate society. Like just Monday night, go crazy, play 2 running backs from the same team, your offense against your defense. Just go for it.
I got a meatball sub with my name on it. I'm ready to sit down and kick off and watch this first game, Squirrel. So I appreciate you coming in. We appreciate you guys tuning in and all those questions. We're going to be back on Thursday with another show. Until then, good luck in those GPPs. That was Squirrel. I'm Chop. We're out of here.